One point that Prabhupada brings out in the purport, which I think we should elaborate on, is that there's no material solution for material problem, right? Spiritual solutions are the only way by which to mitigate all problems. So there's many ways of looking at this. One way of looking at it is that if any problem we have, we should seek the shelter of the Lord, right? That's described in Bhagavad Gita as the mentality of the demigods. When they face a problem and they cannot fix it through their own strength, they turn to the Supreme Lord and they ask His help. Okay, word for word. Maitreya Uvacha. The great sage Maitreya said, Evam, thus, Sanjalpitam, spoken together, Matuhu, from the mother, Akarnya, hearing, Artha Agamam, purposeful, Vachaha, words, Saniyamya, controlling, Atmana, by the mind, Atmanam, own self, Nischakrama, got out, Pituhu, of the father, Purat, from the house. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued, the instruction of Dhruva Maharaj's mother, Suniti, was actually meant for fulfilling his desired objective. Therefore, after deliberate consideration and with intelligence and fixed determination, he left his father's house. Purport by His Divine Grace. Both the mother and son were lamenting Dhruva Maharaj's having been insulted by his stepmother, and his father's not having taken any step on this issue. But mere lamentation is useless. One should find out the means to mitigate one's lamentation. Thus, both mother and son decided to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, because this is the only solution to all material problems. It is indicated that in this connection, that Dhruva Maharaj left his father's capital city to go to a secluded place to search the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the instruction of Prahlad Maharaj also that if one is seeking the peace of mind, he should free himself from all contamination of family life and take shelter of the Supreme Godhead by going to the forest. To the Gaudiya Vaishnava, this forest is the forest of Vrinda or Vrindavana. If one takes shelter of Vrindavana under Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani, certainly all the problems of his life are very easily solved. So Prabhupada ki. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devyam saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet mukam kuroti vachalam pangulam gayate girim yakripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Mishwaram Namam Vishmudaya Krishna Bhutale Srimate Indrujumna Swami Vinamane Namo Prabhupada Pridasaya Jagannatha Yatra Nandamurtaye Bhaktasukena Krishna Kirtanena Narasimhena Rakshataya Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvye Vacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai. So this pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, especially in the beginning, is quite a strong example of some bad happening or some bad situation that a young boy or a family person, a son, a husband, a wife is put into, and therefore it's quite difficult to understand how a boy of such a young age was able to take action. Right? The mother is instructing him, Suniti is instructing him on what he should do, and she, being a devotee, was able to give him the highest instruction that if you have a problem, go seek the help of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so he, being even a 5-year-old kid, was able to take that instruction to heart, and being a perfect Kshatriya, was able to, with determination and controlling his mind, go after his goal. Right? Many times when we are faced with a material problem, or with any problem for that instance, rather than taking action and fixing it, we want to indulge in the feeling of pity on oneself, that, oh, I'm so poor, this happened to me, why did this happen to me? And therefore kind of just sit in that solemn space of depression and just enjoy that energy. This material energy or this negative energy is very powerful, and that's why people sometimes, they want that, and you have people who are masochists and people who injure themselves on purpose to feel that suffering, because suffering is still energy, it's a state of being. So rather than not feeling anything, they want to feel something, and because they're not feeling anything positive, they would rather go for the negative, right? It's still something, right? Some people like to bring attention to themselves by acting morose, or by acting sad, or by lamenting loudly to get people's attention. This is all very common in this material world, and we see it nowadays especially. It's very common because people have the luxury of being able to do nothing, right? They say depression is a rich man's disease, because the poor man has no time to lament. If he doesn't go out and get his food or go beg or do what he needs to do, he's not going to eat that day. Right? So Dhruva Maharaj, being a 5-year-old boy, he was able to be so powerful and so determined with his resolve that he gave up that lamentation, which is extreme. You know, the father rejected him, and the mother-in-law, the stepmother, told him such harsh words. He was so ashamed and belittled, and even for a grown-up that would be devastating. But he, taking resolve and taking his mother's instructions to heart, left the house of his father and went to achieve his goal, which was to have a kingdom greater than his grandfather, which means greater than Brahma, which is, quite a tall order, as they say, right? Brahma is the controller of the entire universe, and he, a 5-year-old boy, wanted to have a kingdom greater than Brahma's. So it's quite difficult to understand, but his mother told him, go seek the help of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because only He can fulfill your desire. So in this pastime, we can learn so many different lessons, from the very beginning of this chapter to the very last. There's so many different lessons we can learn from this, but one point that Prabhupada brings out in the purport, which I think we should elaborate on, is that there's no material solution for material problem, right? Spiritual solutions are the only way by which to mitigate all problems. So there's many ways of looking at this. One way of looking at it is that if any problem we have, we should seek the shelter of the Lord, right? That's described in Bhagavad Gita as the mentality of the demigods. When they face a problem and they cannot fix it through their own strength, they turn to the Supreme Lord and they ask His help. Right? So many instances are there that the demigods are put under pressure, and they go to the Supreme Lord. They go to the Kshirodaka ocean, or they go to Brahma, or they go to some way, meditate, and achieve the help of the Lord. While the demons, when they get defeated and get thrashed, what do? They go and make a new plan, make a new regroup, get a new group, a new help, a new demon to come and help them, right? Like it's described in Krishna book when Jarasandha came and attacked 21 times, attacked Dwarka. 21? I think 21. Anyway, it was in the 20. 18. Yeah, something like 21, I think, is the amount of time Parshuram destroyed the Kshatriyas. Yeah, 21 times. Okay, so Jarasandha was 18. And he was bringing Aukshahinis of men coming to attack Mathura again and again and again and again and again and again, trying to attack Krishna. Right? So every time Krishna would defeat him, and instead of giving up, he would go get a new army, new help, new allies, come again, try attack Krishna. Krishna would defeat him, he would go again, get new allies and come. So he never gave up. Right? And a little footnote on there is described, I don't remember which Maharaj described it, but he was explaining that Krishna came to this material world for the purpose of, right? Vinashaya Jatushkritam, those who are sinful people, to destroy them. So Kurukshetra happened, a great amount of people were destroyed, but Krishna on his own did a lot of destruction of sinful people and demons who were in the earth at that time, and that was one of the reasons why he always let Jarasandha go. Jarasandha would bring a whole bunch of people to get destroyed, Krishna would destroy them, and he would go bring a new batch. So he was helping Krishna in his mission. Krishna just had to sit and wait, and a new batch of armies would come, Krishna would destroy them, then he'd go collect more demons from earth and bring them back, and Krishna could destroy them. So he was actually serving Krishna in a very great way, until finally Krishna had enough. Right? But that happened many times, right? We also see in the pastime of Banasura and Krishna, right? 13 Aksahinis was there from Banasura's side. Krishna destroyed them. So the Kurukshetra war was just the ending of this pastime of eliminating the miscreants in this world at that time. But coming back to the point that the demons, they never give up. They think that, no, I can figure this out. Under my own power, I can figure it out. I will become more powerful. I will perform austerities. I will get the boons of the demigods, right? And become more powerful to be able to conquer whatever difficulty I may have. Well, the demigods, they surrender to the Lord. And so we understand that the spiritual solutions is the only way by which we can actually take care of material problems. But beings for us, we have more, how would I say, down-to-earth problems, right? There's the sufferings of this material world. Prabhupada describes many sufferings in this material world, but he specifically describes the four, right? The problem that we're always looking for being able to maintain this material body, but not even maintain to enjoy. So we have the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, right? We're always in anxiety. Where is my next meal going to come from? Where am I going to get food? How am I going to get money to buy the food, right? We're always in anxiety about defending what we have, right? I have a little bit of money, I have a little bit of family, I have a little bit of prestige, fame, name. How do I protect it, right? We're always in anxiety of mating, right? I want a beautiful wife, I want to maintain that, I want to make sure she doesn't leave, or so many other things. I'm looking for a girlfriend, whatever it may be. We're always in that desire for sex life, which is the way the world works now, right? And a place to reside. Sleeping is more, broadly defined as a place, your own home, your place to relax. And so we're always in this anxiety, and the pains of maintaining or searching after these things are always on us. And so it's very difficult for us to get out of this material suffering in that way. There's also the other three kleshas, which are described, the sufferings in this material world, right? Adhyatmika, Adibhaudika, and Adidevika. Those sufferings that are brought on by our own body or our own mind, right? There's so many sufferings brought on from the body, sufferings of sickness, sufferings of hunger, sufferings of desires, aches, pains, other disturbances by the mind. The mind is non-stop disturbing us and taking us here, taking us there, just making us suffer in so many ways. Then there's Atibhautika, those sufferings that are brought on by other living entities. Right? Prabhupada goes into, he says that from the very small bug that might annoy you, let's say a fly or a mosquito, all the way to other living beings and animals that might disturb you in other ways, hurt you in other ways. They're all defined by this Adibhautika, other living entities. So many sufferings are there. Unlimited sufferings are there. And then Adidevika, those sufferings that are brought on from natural disasters, demigods, malefic planets. So many different sufferings are there in this material world, and they're non-stop. And the only way by which we can, how would I say, cross over this ocean of suffering is by understanding our true nature in this material world, by understanding our true relationship to the world. The spiritual solution is that we understand that ahankara, or false ego, is the cause of all this suffering. It's the cause of all this suffering because we understand that this material world is a place of suffering. And so there's no point trying to stop it. There's no point trying to stop the wind from blowing, to stop the mind from making us suffer. We understand that our eternal relationship to the Lord is His servant. And as long as we identify with this material body, right, we start thinking the famous verse in Bhagavad Gita, Janasya moham aham mameti, right? You're thinking that whatever is mine, whatever is related to this body is mine to enjoy, is I and mine. So we suffer so much for things that have no reason to suffer. You break your phone, you suffer. You break your bike, you suffer. Your book gets lost, you suffer. So many things happen, you suffer. And that's why it's called iPhone, no? iPhone, my phone, right? It's mine to enjoy. And they very, very perfectly describe it. iPhone, iPad, everything is I, because you identify with it, right? So as long as we are identifying with the body and everything that's related to the body, i.e. family, prestige, wealth, power, then when those things are disturbed or when those things are taken away, it brings immense suffering because we think we have the power to control it. Right? As long as we put ourselves in the driver's seat, we're constantly in stress about what's going to happen to my things, what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen to my family, and it's never ending. The cause of suffering, the cause of stress, because we think we are the controllers, and it's our responsibility to do all this, to take care of all this, to maintain all this, and no one is there looking after us, right? So it's a very, very stressful position, and it makes sense why it's like that. It's described that we become under a feverish state of constant struggle to gain and maintain enjoyment in this material world, to please the senses, to please the mind, to please those, who are dear to us, because we're constantly identifying with that as our state of being, right? But until, right? Oh, there's also the verse in Bhagavad Gita which describes the mentality of the soul, right? It says, Prakrite kriyamanani gunakarmani sarvasa ahankara vibhutmatma kartamam iti manyate, right? The spirit soul, bewildered by influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are actually carried out by the three modes of material nature. Right? So you feel yourself that you are the doer, you are the controller, and therefore you're constantly under the suffering of trying to maintain and enjoy this material energy. So in that state of consciousness, the pains of this material world are multiplied because we feel that we are able to stop it, we're able to control it. We get sick, we immediately search out the cure, right? And we are trying to solve the sickness, and we're trying never to be sick, and we actually believe on a subconscious level that will happen. We will, by taking this medicine, we will be happy. By fixing this problem, we'll be happy. By getting a new jacket, I'll be happy. By getting a new computer, I will actually be happy. And you actually are convinced the nature of the material world is so powerful that you're actually convinced. You forget all the other problems you have, thinking that one sole thing, the new phone, the newest iPhone that's coming out, the newest car that's coming out is going to fix all your problems. And we actually think about it. We think about it for ourselves, We're thinking, tomorrow I'm going to have a wonderful cake or wonderful sweet, and that's going to fix all my problems will be fixed by eating that wonderful sweet. We don't think of all the other things that might be happening to us. But as soon as we eat the sweet and we're momentarily happy, then the next problem shows up. The next thing shows up. Oh, actually I have this, or actually I'm that. And actually so many things are showing up that we realize that, no, there's many more problems. So we're in this constant cycle of trying to permanently fix something that cannot be fixed. This material world is a place of suffering, and trying to stop the suffering is what we're eternally trying to do. But once we understand that this world is not controlled by us, and everything around us is not controlled by us, we're able to relax a bit and feel aloof from it. We continue performing our activities, but with no attachment to the result. Right? As Krishna says, Bhoktaram yagitapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram sukhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. He achieves shanti, he achieves peace. Right? A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifice and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace with the pangs of material miseries. So when we understand that the Lord is the cause of everything and He is the one in control, then we're able to have peace. Only then we're able to have peace, because we stop trying to control the wind, trying to control everything, which we cannot manage. We cannot stop. We cannot control it in any way. And so therefore, you get to that part where Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita, right? Matra sparsha sukantaya shitosna sukadukara. The passing of happiness and distress in this world, Arjuna, is just like the passing of the seasons. So seeing the temporary nature of this material world, then the person is able to focus on the Lord. When he stops this rat race of trying to control every situation he's put into, every single situation, everything he's trying to control and enjoy, and when he realizes that he has no control and it's not meant for his enjoyment, then he's able to relax. Right? And that's why in the next verse Krishna says, Yam hinavyate yanyete purusham purushav shrava samaduka sukam diram somirtataya kalpate. O best of men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Why? Because that person has attained true ego. Right? He understands that I am the eternal servant of the Lord. I am not in control. He's the supreme master. And therefore he is eligible. It's a little confusing when you read it, that all of a sudden in the second chapter, Krishna is talking about a person who is eligible for liberation. But we understand through more reading in the purports of Srila Prabhupada that the reason why he's eligible for liberation, right? Why is a person simply because he's able to not be disturbed by happiness and distress and the seasons, the changing of the seasons? How is he eligible for liberation? Because we understand that he realizes that Krishna is the supreme controller and he is simply a servant. He conquers the false ego, which is the root of all sufferings in this material world. Right? It's also described that ahankara or false ego is the root of all the different anarthas we have in the heart. Because it's only that we identify as a controller that we can desire something that's not connected to Krishna. Only if we think that we can enjoy in this material world is there a plane for which we can desire things separate from Krishna. So all anarthas that may come within the heart is only because we think that we can enjoy separate from Krishna and that we are the controllers and the enjoyers of this material world. So it is the root of all other anarthas. And Radhanath Maharaj in a lecture, he very nicely described that we can try going like a gardener in a garden, constantly weeding. You know, there's so many weeds in the way of your plants. And you're weeding. If you just cut the weeds, what happens? It comes back. Cut, come back. You can constantly go in circles in your garden cutting weeds, unendlessly. But until you uproot them from the root, which is ahankara, they will continue coming, sometimes even stronger, thicker, harder to cut. So until we're able to understand our state and understand our eternal nature in this material world as being the servants of the Lord, we're constantly going to be bothered by anarthas after anarthas and pangs of material suffering. Because we identify as the controller and the enjoyer, even to a subtle amount. We as devotees, we hear it day after day, right? We're the eternal servants of the Lord, and our duty is to eternally serve Him. But we still, on a subconscious level, think that some material thing will fix whatever material problem we might have. Right? We're tired, we're this, we're that, we're suffering for a certain reason, and we think, okay, I'm going to fix this little problem, and it'll get fixed. Right? It's like I used to live under a grass hut, and there was tons of holes all the time in rainy season. So you go plugging holes all day. You can go plug a hole, it leaks another day on another spot. You go plug that hole, another day it's going to leak in another spot. So you're constantly plugging holes, trying to stop the rain from falling on you. But there's no solution. It's not going to work like that. This material world is an endless suffering. And until we realize that and understand we're not the controller, we're just going to be plugging holes left and right, thinking, okay, I have this hole now, I'll fix this problem, everything will be okay. As soon as we do that, some other problem will show up. Right? So once we understand that our true ego or our true nature is to be the eternal servants of the Lord and serve Him eternally, and in that way we can be eternally happy, then we let go of being in the driver's seat, so to speak, and trying to control every situation. But the misconception is that someone who is in that state will stop performing his duty. This is wrong. It's described just like Arjuna, after hearing the Bhagavad Gita, he was in true understanding of his nature. But he didn't go there, pew, throw a few arrows here and there, and then, expect Krishna to take care of everything else. No, he fought with all determination and all power, trying to win the war, with full energy. He knew Krishna is the controller, and he knew that Krishna would take care. He heard Bhagavad Gita. But he still felt it his duty to do the best of his ability. So the devotee who is not in control, he's not lazy. The devotee who understands he's not in control is not lazy. He will still endeavor to the full of his potential to serve the Lord, to perform his prescribed duties. A grihastha who's a devotee, or a householder, someone who's in charge of a certain project, he endeavors supremely, with all energy, because he understands that he's offering that service to the Lord, and therefore it is beneficial for him, therefore it's devotional service, and therefore he does it to the full of his ability, but he's not attached to the results, and therefore he doesn't suffer. Right? He understands taking care of his family is his prescribed duty at the moment, and so he must do it to the full of his ability. Right? Not over-endeavoring, right? Not like Rupa Goswami describes in Nectar Instruction, right? Not over-endeavoring, but doing his prescribed duty, maintaining his family, maintaining the situation. The temple president has to take care of the temple. And non-stop he's, stressed about this, stressed about that, doing this service, doing that service, meeting this, meeting that person, trying to organize festivals, trying to organize everything. But it's pure devotional service. Well, devotional service is pure to the extent the person is conscious of the Lord. But it's devotional service. And he's not attached to the result. And only if one is not attached to the result and understands that everything is in the hands of the Lord, he can be peaceful. Right? Shantim Richati. Only at that stage does one understand and can be peaceful. Doesn't matter what happens. Right? It's not that the miseries of this world stop. It's not that one stops getting sick, or one stops suffering, or one stops being afflicted by the threefold miseries of this material world. It's just that it doesn't bother him anymore because he understands the temporary nature of this material world. This place is a place of suffering. I'm in this material world. Sufferings will come and go. Happiness and distress will come and go. But what am I here for? To understand my eternal nature with the Lord and to serve Him eternally. And in that way, he's very peaceful. In that way, he can let go. In that way, you stop being stressed. Yeah, so it's something that we can always all look forward to, and we can truly try to understand. And in all situations, analyze, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to control the situation? Are we trying to enjoy the situation? Right? Even relationships between friends, sometimes it's taken advantage of, or how would I say, you're just simply trying to exploit the person for your own enjoyment. Right? Instead of thinking, how can I serve this person? You're thinking, how can this person serve me? How does he satisfy my senses? He talks about a certain subject that I find palatable, and therefore I associate with him. Not that I like this person by his nature, and what can I do to serve him, to make him happy? There's many types of friends we have in this material world. And many friends we have among devotees also. But especially with devotees, we should be very careful that we're not being, exploiting the person for our sense gratification, either gross or subtle. That we're doing it, we're having that relationship with the person for our spiritual upliftment, and even on a material level, that we're trying to please the person, serve the person. Right? So many self-help people and therapists trying to fix marriages, fix relationships between mother and kids, father and kids, right? They say the same thing. Find a common place where you both can relate to each other and help each other, serve each other in that way. Sacrifice your time, your energy to please another person. And if the person does the same, then a relationship can grow. But if one is simply feeding off the other for their own selfish reasons and sense enjoyment, as soon as that flow of enjoyment stops, the relationship is gone. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's no underlying base. You stop satisfying that sense of mine, you stop satisfying that desire of mine, and therefore, I have no use for you anymore. So it's very important for us to understand that we are not the controllers, we're not the enjoyers, and we have to serve. We serve the Lord, we serve, devotees, and that way we can slowly understand our eternal nature of being the servant of the Lord. And therefore be happy and stop suffering the pains of this material world and focus on our true goal of going back to Godhead. Yeah? Another point that's there in the purport, what Prabhupada mentions, is that for us Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we aspire to go to Vrindavan and to surrender to Srimati Radharani and serve her. And in that way, I forgot the word that Prabhupada uses, but he says, if one takes shelter of Vrindavan under Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani, certainly all problems of life are solved very easily. Right? So this is under the same line, that if one understands that the purpose of life is to serve, and if one understands his true nature, then all the problems of material life seem unimportant and become very trivial, and therefore one can focus on the service of Srimati Radharani, on the service of the Lord. And so Dhruva Maharaj, we will see in the future verses that he actually goes to Braj, right? He goes to Madhuvan. Madhuvan is one of the forests of Braj, and it's one of the first forests you visit in your Braj Mandal Parikram. It's a very beautiful forest. Well, now it's not so much of a forest, but it's a nice, beautiful town. The people there are very wonderful. There's a lake there. I think they call it Dhruva Kund, or is another name. There's also a Gaudiya Math there. They're very happy when devotees come and visit, so you can plan your visit to Madhuvan. And Dhruva Maharaj went there. He went to Braj, and there he practiced devotional service and achieved the highest goal of the lotus feet of the Lord. Yeah? So we'll finish there. If there's any comments or questions, it would be wonderful. Yes, bro. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, one comment. I thought it's very interesting because he said we're not in control of the outcome, basically, but we are in control of the endeavor. So this is something what we surely can and should control, that we put an endeavor in, but be not attached to the outcome. I just kind of paraphrased it or whatever. 2 questions. The one question, what I said in the beginning about Bhagavad Gita and killing all the demons, it always was kind of astonishing to me because Krishna came to kill all the miscreants and all the demons and all the Kshatriya warriors. But quite soon after Kali Yuga started and so many demons were there again. So, I thought, okay, for quite some thousands of years should be peace till, but it's kind of immediately the trouble started again. Although Krishna came to do Kurukshetra and, kill, or, whatever this. So you have any explanation to this?
Why immediately Kali Yuga comes after that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So many demons showed up in Kali itself. Normally Krishna said, he comes to establish the principles of religion, and then everything is fixed again, right? But not so much after him. Kali comes and Kali Yuga starts, and the troubles really started.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Yes. So basically, there's the way that the universe functions. There's the way that the kalpas function, the ages function, and there's supposed to be a certain balance, right? Of course, there's good and bad in this material world, and it's a material world, so there's definitely bad always there. Well, when it goes out of balance is when the Lord incarnates. That's right. So he came in Dwapara Yuga, right? Which is actually the third age. He came in Dwapara Yuga to fix that balance. And so you can imagine the amount of demons who took birth at that time in the form of powerful people in this material world. The activities that they were doing were way worse than anything that started at the beginning of Kali Yuga when Parikshit Maharaj was the emperor. Right, it's described in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and in Mahabharata that when Parikshit Maharaj was the emperor, everyone lived in peace, everyone was super happy, everything was going well. Right, even though it was the beginning of Kali Yuga, by his power and by the power of Krishna, that he eliminated all those envious and evil personalities, that Kali Yuga was being postponed. Right, the start of Kali Yuga was not able to start because Parikshit Maharaj, and because there were no people at that time that were evil. Parikshit Maharaj Kali himself had to come and get it started by some way. But because of the cleanliness of the world at that time, and by the perfect ruling of Maharaj Parikshit and Janamejaya who came afterwards, Kali Yuga was being postponed. Right? And so when Krishna came, he cleaned up the universe the world to such an extent that we cannot understand. Because if you read actually the individual pastimes, or I shouldn't say pastimes because pastimes is very positive, I should say the activities or sinful activities of these individual kings that were killed by Krishna, they're horrific. What Jarasandha was doing to his family, he was doing human sacrifices, collecting kings, and doing by the hundreds doing human sacrifices, right? It's Kamsa, he imprisoned his own father, his mother, he imprisoned his sister, he was killing the kids of his sister, right? These activities are straight up demoniac, and even in Kali Yuga today, it would be like horror, right? But at that time, because of their power, no one was able to do anything about them. Kamsa was so powerful, he conquered Indra, he fought with Indra. And Jarasandha was so powerful. All these kings at that time were so powerful and they're governing the earth, so they really made the balance of that age completely out. And so Krishna had to come to kind of put the balance back in the proper way and re-establish religion. And so that's why after the Kurukshetra, even though to one way we see it as a very negative time because Krishna left this world, all the Yadavas left, the Pandavas left, everyone was gone, it was only Parikshit Maharaj alone. But if you read the descriptions of the activities of people of that age, it's very positive. Everyone was following the proper forms of religion, everyone was happy, everyone was satisfied, there was no quarrels, there was no need for war. And Parikshit Maharaj was touring his kingdom, which is the world at that time, and he was seeing that everything is fine. And at the end of his tours, when he met Kali, who was destroying the legs of the bull, right? So, because of the cleanup that Krishna did, Kali Yuga wasn't even able to start. And then when it did want to start, Parikshit Maharaj was able to even pause it even longer by only telling Kali he's able to reside where gold is hoarded and where, right, those principles are broken. So if not for Krishna coming, where would we be? Where would everything be? Like at that time, those kings, what they were doing is unspeakable horrors they were doing. Even Duryodhana, who were the emperors of the world, what they were doing to the Pandavas, So we have to understand that Krishna did do a huge cleanup and completely put everything back in balance. But the rules of nature continue and the ages continue, and Kali Yuga has to start. But it was such a peaceful, it's described that it was like Satya Yuga after Kurukshetra, after everything finished and Parikshit Maharaj was there. It was an amazing era of time and peace and prosperity among the people. But Kali Yuga had to start by the desire of the Lord, and so therefore it started. But if not for Krishna and Parshuram and all the previous incarnations of the Lord who cleaned up again and again this world, where would we be? What would be now? We don't know, and we can't imagine. Does that make some sense, Ru?
Very nice thoughts. Yeah. Thank you very much. Can I ask another question, or
yes.
Is there somebody else?
No, please, Ru.
I spoke also about ahangara, and of course we all know to give up this material ahangara. We know this body, we the servants, and something like that. But when we come in the association of devotees, we confronted with a whole nother set of ahangaras, what are they look like spiritual ahangaras. Just yesterday somebody asked me if I later on want to take sannyas. And this is already, you take sannyas, and I don't know, what is the, is kind of a ladder, then you're happy. You come as a bhakta, you nothing, then you get first initiation, get a new name, you belong to it, but still you don't have this, when you go to whatever. So, we're looking for this kind of spiritual ahangaras who are needed and actually are there to support us in our losing ahangara, but we still holding on to them and climbing up the ladder again in spiritual circles. So what you would say would be a good way to protect oneself coming into situation in spiritual circles, and don't be again catched by this kinds of ahangaras. Thank you.
Wonderful question, Prabhu. Two parts of that question. One part is that yes, we have these desires for name, fame, power, prestige, wealth, prosperity, and by utilizing them in devotional service, they're purified. So those people who have an intense desire for power, right? Let them manage. Let them be put in those positions in devotional service, and through that way they'll purify, right? But the only way how we can keep ourselves humble and make sure that we're not going out of hand and that those anarthas are actually being purified is by surrounding ourselves by people who are actually our well-wishers and will actually tell us, hey, you're going out of line. That's why we have guru, that's why we have shiksha gurus to tell us, it's okay, calm down. So many times you'll see discussions of Srila Prabhupada with people, and with one word, with one sentence, he will put them back in their place very, very perfectly and very to the point. And they will understand it. They'll take it in perfect nature and understanding that Prabhupada is their well-wisher. So by surrounding ourselves with people who can do that for us and who can actually put us back in line and make sure that we're not getting too puffed up or getting too entangled in day-to-day things. Let's say, you're trying to raise funds for the temple. And if you become too much entangled in that, and look at me, I managed to raise $1 million, $2 million for the construction of this and that, it becomes very bewildering. But if you have someone there to tell you, remember who you are and what the goal of this service you're doing, and put you back in the proper place. Prabhupada many times would even take people out of managerial positions when he saw them being overwhelmed or bewildered, right? And say, no, go preach, go on Sankirtan, right? When they became very attached to a certain project and they were getting too much involved, Prabhupada would say, okay, someone else can manage, you go on Sankirtan, you go on, on a traveling tour, and completely take away that thing that made them identify that I am the manager, I am the in charge. So we need to have someone like that around us who can look out for us and who we are able to be surrendered to, and that's why Guru is so important in the process of devotional service. But on the same hand, like you said, we're utilizing these. Like you said, it's a tool for us to get rid of the material ahankara using spiritual ahankara. Spiritual ahankara is not the right word, but this. Like Prabhupada says, there should be transcendental competition in book distribution. There should be, right? Why not? But then you have people who are there who tell you, okay, calm down, don't get too proud. So they are utilized to be purified, but we have to have the people there to still help us, guide us through that situation. And speaking of, first initiation, Brahman initiation, sannyas, when I look at it, I think of taking sannyas as the right wording. But you have to understand that what are you taking is you're taking on that vow to follow, right? So you're taking more responsibility, you're taking on more work rather than more prestige. You're taking on more service, you're taking on more facility to do more service, right? So just like when you take first initiation, it's not that you're taking on, no, you're becoming more of a servant. You get second initiation, you become even more of a servant. It's just more service. There's no prestige there. There's no So you should just look at it in a reverse way, and there has to be someone there to help you, explain to you that it's just an opportunity to do more service. It's just an opportunity to be more focused and more Krishna conscious and give up more of your material desires because you have less time for them. Right? It's like Mahaprabhu was talking about how not everyone will take initiation, and initiation should be taken very seriously. Right? You shouldn't take it lightly, that it's just automatically become devotee means you need to do this, and that. No. Only when you're ready. Right? It's not just a prestige ladder that you're climbing up. Rather, it's an opportunity for more service. It's an opportunity for you to take on the vow of chanting 16 rounds, following the four greater principles, right? Reading Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, studying Srila Prabhupada's books. And then in that way, you're progressing and you won't become more puffed up and proud.
Yeah, I also, especially this word taking sannyas, you said it's the right term, and I agree, because you take the responsibility. Yeah. But on the other hand, I think it has to be awarded, because it comes with service, it comes with responsibility, and it should be awarded from persons who understand you are qualified. Yeah. You're qualified that you're not qualified. Yeah. So I think this is we having this understanding, like for example, I go back to Krishna, I can play with Krishna, and we think again we enjoying. Exactly. We take sannyas, and then I made it. Yeah. Everybody will bow down. I made it a spiritual world. Finally, I'm out. I can play with Krishna. I can enjoy Krishna. So it always comes with service, and I think sometimes we. Yeah, as you said in the beginning, this the Hangara meaning we are servants, and we never can forget it. Sorry.
No, for sure. I saw my teacher, Pradivardhan Prabhu, he became a sannyasi, Pradivardhan Maharaj now. The amount of energy and study and preaching he had to do to be able to become qualified to get sannyas, right? Or to be awarded sannyas, like you say, Prabhu, was so immense. Years and years of studying Śrīmad Bhāgavatam back and forth, doing this course, that course, this teaching training course, that training course. It's so much work, right? And it's almost like how would I say, almost like disheartening, like, how am I ever going to reach that level? But when you achieve that level that you're so inspired to preach that you want to do that work to be able to preach, like Srila Prabhupada said, people aren't listening to me as a grihasta. I have to become a sannyasi for people to listen to me, right? People will take me seriously, right? So to be able to be determined to preach that much that you're willing to sacrifice. I mean, it's not sacrifice because you're studying Srila Prabhupada's books, but do all these different courses and get all the permissions and all the recommendations and everything else that's needed to be done, especially in our present society. It's a lot of determination. And so, once you're willing to go through that and achieve that level, you have to be in the right mindset, like you say, Prabhu. And it's not a goal; it's just another platform of service. And I think every single level of initiation is misinterpreted or can be misunderstood in the same way. That, I achieved first initiation, now I can relax for a couple of years. I achieved second initiation, now I can relax for a couple of years. No. It's just another platform. It's just another opportunity. And yeah, if you're fortunate enough to have people around you who can make sure that you stay in that proper mindset and facilitate more service and more opportunities, so you stay humble and you stay eager and you stay hungry, you're very fortunate. You're very fortunate.
I successfully avoid them.
Yes. Any other questions, comments? Prabhu, you had one?
Later.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll finish here. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki, Śrīla Prabhupada ki, Janitai Gaura Premanandi.
Paramahamsa Gaura. What does Maharaj do now? I mean, where is he?
He travels at least once a year. He travels at least